The Arrival. In the vastness of space, where stars twinkled like distant diamonds, two small ships glided silently through the void. On board one of these vessels, the Odyssey, were Zephyr and Lyra, two explorers from Earth on a mission that would change their lives forever. They had been sent to investigate reports of a lost human colony on an alien planet known as Silora 7, a world teeming with life yet shrouded in mystery. As they descended through Silora 7's atmosphere, vibrant colors painted the landscape below. Lush forests stretched endlessly, dotted with towering trees that seemed to reach for the heavens. Rivers sparkled like liquid silver under the light of two suns. It was a breathtaking sight, but both explorers knew they had little time to admire it. Their mission was urgent. They had to find any survivors from the lost colony before it was too late. "Look at that," Lyra exclaimed, pointing at an enormous structure rising above the treetops. It was unlike anything they had seen before, an intricate blend of natural elements and advanced architecture that seemed to pulse with life itself. "Do you think it could be part of the colony?" Zephyr squinted through the cockpit window, his heart racing at the thought of finding fellow humans after all this time. "It's possible," he replied thoughtfully, "but we need to be cautious. We don't know what we're dealing with here." After landing near the structure, they stepped out into an unfamiliar world filled with sounds that were both enchanting and unsettling. Strange creatures flitted through the air, their colors shifting like rainbows as they moved. The air was thick with moisture, carrying scents that were both sweet and earthy. "Stay close," Zephyr instructed as they ventured toward the towering structure. Each step felt heavy with anticipation. They were not just explorers but potential saviors of their kind. As they approached, intricate carvings adorned the walls of the structure, depicting scenes of harmony between various life forms, humans and aliens coexisting peacefully. "This is incredible," Lyra whispered in awe, tracing her fingers over one of the carvings. "It's like a history book." Suddenly, a low rumble echoed through the air, causing both explorers to freeze in place. The ground beneath them trembled slightly as if warning them of an impending danger. "What was that?" Lyra asked nervously. "I don't know," Zephyr replied cautiously, scanning their surroundings for any signs of life or hostility. "Let's move inside quickly." Inside, they found themselves in a vast chamber illuminated by bioluminescent plants that glowed softly against the dark stone walls. It felt alive, pulsating with energy as if it were breathing along with them. In one corner stood an ancient console filled with buttons and screens flickering erratically. "Look," Lyra pointed at one screen displaying what appeared to be star maps and coordinates. "This could help us locate where they went." As she approached the console, Zephyr noticed something out of place, a shadow lurking just beyond their line of sight. His instincts kicked in. He turned sharply but saw nothing there. "Lyra," he called softly, "be careful." Before she could respond, a figure emerged from behind a pillar, a tall alien creature with shimmering skin that reflected the light around it like liquid metal. Its eyes were large and expressive, filled with curiosity rather than hostility. "Who are you?" it asked in a melodic voice that resonated through the chamber. "We're explorers from Earth," Zephyr replied cautiously, stepping forward slightly while keeping his guard up. "We're looking for a human colony that was reported to be here." The alien tilted its head in confusion, but then nodded slowly as if processing their words. "Humans. I have heard stories," it said thoughtfully. "But this place is not safe for you." "What do you mean?" Lyra interjected, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "The others, they do not welcome your kind," it explained cryptically before gesturing toward another exit leading deeper into the structure. "You must leave before it is too late." Zephyr exchanged worried glances with Lyra. Time was running out, but so was their understanding of this alien world. "We can't leave without finding out what happened to our people," he insisted. The alien hesitated but then stepped closer, lowering its voice as if sharing a secret only meant for them. "There are dangers here you cannot comprehend, forces beyond your control. Realizing they had stumbled into something much larger than themselves, Zephyr felt both fear and determination swell within him. They had come too far to turn back now. They needed answers. "Then guide us," he said firmly. "Help us understand this place so we can find our people." With a reluctant nod, the alien motioned for them to follow as it led them deeper into Xylora 7's mysteries, a journey fraught with uncertainty, but filled with hope for discovery. As they moved forward into uncharted territory, Zephyr couldn't shake off an unsettling feeling. He understood now more than ever that who they called upon in this strange land could indeed make all the difference between salvation or disaster. The adventure had only just begun. The mysterious signal. As Zephyr and Lyra followed the alien guide deeper into the heart of the structure, an air of anticipation hung around them. They had been thrust into a world that was both beautiful and strange, and the promise of answers loomed just ahead. The alien, who introduced itself as Jonathan, led them through winding corridors adorned with intricate murals, depicting scenes of harmony between humans and the various life forms of Xylora 7. The unfolding mystery. "Tell us more about this place," Lyra urged as they walked. "How did you come to build all of this?" Jonathan paused, glancing back at them with a mixture of pride and nostalgia. This was once a thriving city where humans and aliens lived together. We shared knowledge, art, and culture. But as time went on, misunderstandings grew. Many humans left for other worlds, seeking new adventures or fleeing conflicts. Zephyr felt a pang of sadness at Jonathan's words. And the others, the ones who stayed. Jonathan's expression darkened. Some were lost to the chaos that followed. Others, well, they simply vanished. The weight of those words hung heavily in the air. Lyra exchanged worried glances with Zephyr. They had come seeking answers but were only uncovering more questions. A signal in the dark. As they continued through the dimly lit halls, Jonathan suddenly stopped in front of a large circular chamber filled with strange equipment and glowing screens. "This is my workshop," he said, gesturing proudly to the array of devices and tools scattered around. "What do you create here?" Zephyr asked, intrigued. "Artifacts that blend technology and nature," Jonathan replied, moving toward a console covered in buttons and levers. "But more importantly, I've been trying to decode a signal that I picked up recently." "A signal?" Lyra's interest piqued. "What kind of signal?" Jonathan turned to face them, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "It's unlike anything I've encountered before, patterns that suggest intelligent life. I believe it might be connected to your people." Zephyr felt a surge of hope. "Can you show us?" With a few deft movements, Jonathan activated the console. The screens flickered to life, displaying swirling patterns of light and sound waves pulsating rhythmically. "This is what I've deciphered so far," he explained as he pointed to various sections on the screen. The debate. As they studied the data, Lyra frowned in concentration. "If this is indeed a signal from humans, we need to investigate it further." "But it could be dangerous," Zephyr cautioned. "We don't know what we're dealing with." Jonathan nodded thoughtfully. "You're right to be cautious, but if there are survivors out there, we can't ignore the chance to find them." Lyra crossed her arms defiantly. "We didn't come all this way to turn back now. We have to follow this lead." After a moment of deliberation, Zephyr sighed, realizing Lyra was right. "Okay, let's do it, but we need to prepare ourselves for whatever we might encounter." Setting out. With renewed determination, they gathered supplies from Jonathan's workshop, tools for communication and exploration, and set off toward the source of the signal. As they exited the structure into the vibrant world outside, Zephyr felt a mixture of excitement and trepidation. The landscape was even more breathtaking than before. Bioluminescent plants illuminated their path, while strange creatures darted through the trees overhead. Yet beneath its beauty lay an unsettling tension. Every rustle in the underbrush made Zephyr acutely aware of their vulnerability. "Stay alert," he reminded Lyra as they ventured deeper into the wilderness. After hours of navigating through dense foliage and rocky terrain, They finally reached a clearing where an ancient stone archway stood tall against the backdrop of two setting suns. "What is this place?" Lyra whispered in awe. Jonathan stepped forward cautiously, examining the archway's carvings that depicted celestial bodies intertwined with symbols representing unity and peace among different species. "This is an ancient site," he explained reverently. "It was once a gathering place for many cultures." The signal intensifies. As they approached the archway, Zephyr felt a strange energy radiating from it, a tingling sensation that coursed through him like electricity. Suddenly, one of Jonathan's devices began to beep rapidly. "The signal!" Jonathan exclaimed as he adjusted his equipment to hone in on its source. They gathered around him as lines on his screen began to converge into a clear pattern, a map leading toward a distant mountain range shrouded in mist. "This is it," Jonathan declared excitedly. "If we follow this path, we might find out where the signal is coming from." Lyra nodded eagerly while Zephyr felt an unsettling mix of hope and dread wash over him. They had come so far already. There was no turning back now. Into the unknown. With their destination set, they began their trek toward the mountains under fading light. The air grew cooler as shadows lengthened around them, creating an atmosphere thick with anticipation. As they walked in silence, Zephyr couldn't shake off a nagging feeling that something was watching them from beyond the trees, a presence lurking just out of sight. "Do you feel that?" he asked quietly. Lyra nodded slowly but remained focused ahead. "Just keep moving." As darkness enveloped them like a shroud, they pressed on. Each step echoed with uncertainty about what awaited them at journey's end. Suddenly, an eerie howl pierced through the night air, a chilling reminder that this world held dangers beyond their comprehension. "Stay close," Zephyr shouted as adrenaline surged within him. Whatever lay ahead would test their resolve like never before. With hearts pounding in unison against fear's grip, they forged ahead into the unknown, determined to uncover not only answers but also their own strength amidst uncertainty. The adventure had taken an unexpected turn. Little did they know that their quest for survival would soon become intertwined with destinies far greater than their own. Unforeseen dangers. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the alien landscape, Zephyr, Lyra, and Jonathan stood before the mysterious archway. The air was thick with anticipation and an underlying tension that hinted of the challenges ahead. They had come seeking answers, but the journey was proving to be more perilous than they had imagined. A hidden threat. "Let's move," Zephyr urged, glancing back at Jonathan. "We need to follow that signal before it disappears." Jonathan nodded, his expression serious. "Stay close to me. I know these woods well, but there are dangers lurking in the shadows." As they ventured deeper into the forest, the vibrant colors of Silora 7 began to fade into darkness. Strange sounds echoed around them, rustling leaves, distant howls, and the occasional snap of a twig underfoot. Lyra felt a shiver run down her spine. This world was alive in ways she had never experienced before. "Do you think we're being watched?" Lyra whispered, her voice barely above a breath. Zephyr nodded slowly. "I can't shake the feeling that something is out there." The first encounter. Just as they rounded a bend in the path, a sudden rustle erupted from the underbrush. Zephyr instinctively stepped in front of Lyra, ready to protect her. From the shadows emerged a creature unlike any they had seen, a hulking beast with glowing eyes and sharp claws that glinted menacingly in the dim light. "Back away slowly," Jonathan warned, his voice steady despite the fear evident in his eyes. The creature snarled, baring its teeth as it advanced toward them. Zephyr's heart raced. He could feel every instinct screaming at him to run, but they couldn't show fear. Not now. "Lyra, stay behind me," he instructed firmly. In an act of desperation, Jonathan reached into his satchel and pulled out a small device that emitted a high-pitched sound. The creature paused, its ears twitching as it hesitated for just a moment. "Now," Jonathan shouted as he activated the device again, causing a blinding flash of light to erupt from it. The creature recoiled and darted back into the shadows, leaving them momentarily safe but shaken. That was too close. Lyra breathed heavily, her eyes wide with fear. "We need to keep moving," Zephyr urged again. "We can't let fear stop us." Trusting each other. As they continued onward, the atmosphere grew heavier with each step. The path twisted and turned like a serpent through dense foliage, making it difficult to maintain their bearings. "Jonathan," Lyra said after a moment of silence, "how did you end up here alone?" Jonathan sighed deeply, his gaze distant as if recalling painful memories. "I was part of an expedition that came to explore this planet years ago. We were curious about its potential for colonization and wanted to establish contact with any intelligent life forms." "What went wrong?" Zephyr asked gently. "A misunderstanding," Jonathan replied somberly. "Some of my team made contact with a local species without proper precautions. It escalated quickly into conflict. Many were lost." Lyra placed a reassuring hand on Jonathan's shoulder. "We're here now. We can fix this." Jonathan looked at her, with gratitude shining in his eyes. "Thank you. I hope we can find those who remain before it's too late." A glimmer of hope. Just then, Jonathan's device beeped again, pulling them from their conversation. The signal was growing stronger. They were getting closer. "This way," he exclaimed, leading them off the main path toward a narrow trail obscured by thick vines and foliage. As they moved cautiously through the underbrush, Zephyr felt a renewed sense of purpose swell within him. They were not just searching for survivors, they were forging connections between worlds, an opportunity for understanding and cooperation. Suddenly, Jonathan stopped abruptly. "Listen," he whispered urgently. From somewhere nearby came faint voices, human voices. "They're here!" Lyra exclaimed excitedly as she strained to hear better. Jonathan led them toward the sound until they reached a clearing where several humans were gathered around what appeared to be makeshift shelters built from natural materials and debris. A daring rescue. But their relief was short-lived as they noticed armed figures patrolling the perimeter, hostile aliens guarding their newfound companions. "We can't just charge in there," Zephyr whispered urgently. "We need a plan." Jonathan nodded thoughtfully as he surveyed the scene. "I have some tools that could help us create a distraction." Lyra looked at him with determination in her eyes. "Let's do it." Jonathan quickly rummaged through his satchel and produced several small devices that looked like glowing orbs. "These will create noise and light, enough to draw their attention away from us." Zephyr took one of the orbs and nodded resolutely. "All right then. On my signal." They positioned themselves behind some bushes at the edge of the clearing, while Jonathan prepared one of his devices. 3, 2, 1. Zephyr counted down before Jonathan launched one of the orbs into the air. It exploded in a dazzling array of colors and sounds on the opposite side of the clearing, causing chaos among the guards as they turned to investigate. "Now," Lyra shouted as they dashed toward their fellow humans. The group was startled by their sudden appearance, but quickly regained composure when they realized who had come for them. "Zephyr, Lyra," one of them exclaimed, a familiar face from their colony named Marcus. "We're here to rescue you," Zephyr shouted over the commotion as they ushered everyone away from danger. But just as they thought they might escape unscathed, one of the guards spotted them and raised an alarm. "The chase begins. Run," Jonathan yelled as he led them back into the woods with Zephyr and Lyra close behind. Adrenaline surged through their veins as they sprinted through dense underbrush, while shouts echoed behind them, pursuers hot on their trail. Lyra glanced back briefly to see several figures emerging from the clearing. Panic surged within her chest as she pushed herself harder to keep pace with her companions. "Keep going. Don't look back," Zephyr urged as he focused on navigating through obstacles ahead. They plunged deeper into Xylora 7's wilderness, while branches whipped against their faces and roots threatened to trip them up at every turn. But determination fueled their flight. They could not afford to fail now. Finally reaching a small ravine hidden by thick foliage, Jonathan signaled for everyone to stop and catch their breath while listening carefully for any signs of pursuit. "We need to regroup," Marcus panted heavily beside Zephyr as they leaned against a tree trunk for support. "We'll find safety soon," Zephyr assured him while scanning their surroundings cautiously, aware that danger could still be lurking nearby. As silence enveloped them momentarily amidst heavy breathing and racing hearts, a flicker of hope ignited within each soul present. They knew this journey was far from over. Unforeseen dangers lay ahead, but so did new possibilities for unity among worlds yet unknown. The adventure continued. Allies in unlikely places. As the echoes of their hurried escape faded into the distance, Zephyr, Lyra, Jonathan, and the rescued humans found refuge in a secluded grove surrounded by towering trees. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and blooming flowers, a stark contrast to the chaos they had just left behind. They gathered together, hearts racing but spirits lifting as they realized they were no longer alone. A moment of relief. "Is everyone all right?" Zephyr asked, scanning the faces of their new companions. Marcus, a sturdy man with a determined gaze, nodded in affirmation. "We're shaken but alive," he replied. "Thanks to you three." Lyra smiled at Marcus, relief washing over her. "We couldn't leave you behind. We need to stick together if we're going to survive this." Jonathan stepped forward, his expression serious. "We have to move quickly. The aliens will be searching for us, and we can't afford to be caught again." "Where do we go from here?" Lyra asked, glancing at Jonathan for guidance. A plan takes shape. Jonathan took a deep breath and pointed toward the mountains in the distance. "The signal is coming from that direction. I believe there's a hidden settlement there, a place where humans may have sought refuge." "Then that's where we need to go," Zephyr said decisively. "But we'll have to be careful. The hostile aliens are likely patrolling the area." Marcus stepped forward, his brow furrowed in thought. "If we can find a way to distract them or create a diversion, it might give us the chance we need." Lyra nodded eagerly. "I can use some of Jonathan's devices to create noise while we slip past them." Jonathan smiled at her resourcefulness. "That could work. I have a few more gadgets that might help us as well." As they discussed their plan, Zephyr felt a sense of camaraderie forming among them, a bond forged through adversity and shared purpose. The journey begins. With their plan in place, they set off toward the mountains under the cover of twilight. The forest around them was alive with sounds, chirping insects and rustling leaves, but they moved cautiously, aware that danger lurked just beyond their sight. After several hours of trekking through dense foliage and rocky terrain, they reached a vantage point overlooking a valley below. The landscape was breathtaking. Bioluminescent plants glowed softly in the darkness, illuminating what appeared to be a small settlement nestled among the hills. "There it is," Jonathan exclaimed, pointing toward the settlement. "That's where we need to go." Navigating through danger. As they descended into the valley, Zephyr felt his heart race with anticipation and anxiety. They were so close to finding other survivors. He could almost taste it. "Stay low," he whispered as they approached the settlement's perimeter. They could see figures moving about. Some were human, while others were alien guards patrolling the area. Lyra activated one of Jonathan's devices, a small orb that emitted a high-pitched sound, then tossed it away from their position. The orb exploded with a burst of light and sound, drawing the attention of several guards who rushed toward it. "Now's our chance," Zephyr urged as they slipped past unnoticed. They darted into the settlement, taking cover behind makeshift structures built from natural materials and debris. Finding new allies. Once inside, they quickly realized that this place was not just a refuge. It was thriving with life. Humans and friendly aliens worked side by side, repairing equipment, tending to gardens filled with strange plants, and sharing stories around flickering fires. "Look!" Lyra pointed toward a group gathered near a central fire pit, where an elder human was speaking animatedly to a group of younglings. As they approached cautiously, Zephyr felt an overwhelming sense of hope wash over him. Perhaps this was what they had been searching for, a community where humans could thrive alongside their alien allies. "Excuse me," Jonathan called out as they reached the gathering. The elder turned to face them with wise eyes that sparkled in the firelight. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice deep yet welcoming. "We're explorers from Earth," Zephyr introduced himself and his companions. "We've come seeking others who might have survived." The elder nodded knowingly. "You're not alone anymore. Many have found refuge here after fleeing from danger." Sharing stories. As they settled around the fire, stories began to flow freely. Tales of loss and survival intermingled with laughter and hope for the future. Zephyr shared their harrowing journey through Xylora 7, while Marcus recounted how he had managed to escape captivity alongside others. Jonathan listened intently as humans recounted their experiences of living alongside friendly aliens who had offered them protection against those who sought to do them harm. "This place is remarkable," Lyra remarked as she took in her surroundings. The vibrant colors of alien flora mixed with familiar human elements made her feel at home despite being so far away from Earth. A call to action. After hours spent sharing stories and laughter under the stars, the elder stood up once more, raising his hands for silence. "We are stronger together," he declared passionately, "but we must prepare ourselves for what lies ahead. The hostile forces will not rest until they find us." Zephyr felt a surge of determination within him. This was not just about survival anymore. It was about fighting back against those who threatened their existence. "We can help," he said firmly as he stood up alongside Lyra and Marcus. "We've faced danger before and come out stronger for it." The elder nodded appreciatively at their resolve. "Then let us unite our strengths. Together we will defend our home."